If you make jewelry, you need jump rings. Hi, I'm Melissa Muir. In this video, I'd like to introduce you to the Pepetools Jump Ring Making System. This tool is going to make it so that you never are without the right size ring ever again. With only the addition of a flex shaft machine, the jump ring making system includes everything that you need to make your jump rings. This is what it looks like when you very first get it. We'll open this up and see what we have inside. Now, included in the kit comes everything that you need. Really quickly, let's go through a few of these things. We have our coil winder. Now this has a couple of options. You can either mount the coil winder to the base, you can actually mount the base or just the coil winder to your tabletop, however you would like to secure that. It also has 20 mandrels ranging from 2.5 millimeters all the way up to 12 millimeters. You have quite a variety here. Notice that our little base or holder for this comes out, so you can either store it with everything in here or it can be removed for ease of using if you have decided to mount items to the base itself. We have a sheath that goes onto your number 30 handpiece. We also have a place for our blade, call it to go. It also comes with a 1 1/4 inch saw blade, and I will show you how to install that in just a moment. In addition, we also have our coil holder and cutting guide. And this is where we will do all the cutting action, and I'll show that to you in just a moment. First things first, we have 2 different items that need to be mounted. Now, if you do not have a permanent spot on your table to mount these, you can either mount this onto another board, or you can simply use a C-clamp to hold things into place, or other kind of clamp, whichever you have that might be able to secure to your top. You want your winder to be at least stable so that when you go to wind your coils, you don't have a lot of wobbling or moving of your winder. Now the winder features a Jacob's chuck. This is very similar to what you might have in a drill. This is very nice because it allows you to go not only from very large mandrels but to very small mandrels, and you don't have to use any collets or any special kind of attachments or tools for that. Except for the smallest 4 mandrels. They each feature a hole which will allow us to insert our wire to do the coiling and the winding. To insert your mandrel, simply open up that Jacob's chuck to where you can slide this in, and then you can just hand tighten the mandrel into here. Now again, I have here my hole at the top. I'm going to be using 18 gauge wire. You can either cut a section of wire that you need, or you can just begin to wind and cut off when you get done. Here's a nice little tip for you. If you use a polishing pad of some kind while you're winding, not only will you harden your wire, but you will also polish it at the same time. To do this, I'm going to insert my wire in through the hole that's in the mandrel and begin to wind. Now the goal is to get this wire to lay right next to the coil made before. You want to keep that coil nice and tight so it looks just like a spring. Once your coil has hit the desired length, simply use a pair of wire cutters to trim the end. You will also trim the end where it has been inserted into that little hole. At that point, you can then slip your coil off. Next, you're going to need to insert your blade into the arbor. Now the arbor has an extra little dot here, and it has a notch inside of your blade. The text goes face down, and you're going to align that little dot into that notch. This is going to make sure that your blade is aligned properly, but also makes it so that it doesn't slip when it runs into a little bit of tension or torque. The top part also has a small notch, so line that up. Use a small Phillips head screwdriver to secure the top screw. And we are now ready to install this into your number 30 handpiece. Use the chuck key that comes with your flex shaft to open the collet and make sure it is nice and secure. Now, because we don't want to be using a saw blade that's open like this, rotating at like 3,000 or 13,000 or 18,000 RPMs, they have also included a protective sheath to go over your handpiece. Now, on the outer edge of our sheath, we have a line here. And that line is to help you line up your blade, because that is the center point that's going to match up with our cutting guide. Once you have that lined up, use the included Allen wrench to tighten those Allen screws and hold it into place. When it comes to cutting your jump rings, you want to make certain that you have this holder and guide secured somehow. Whether you decide to use the screw holes and attach it to your tabletop or bench top, or you can use a vise as well, so that you don't have to have a permanent spot for this. To use this, you're going to remove these little knobs. And there's two things I want to point out in here. First, we have a stop here, and that is going to be where we take our jump rings and put it up against this stop. I want to make sure that this is at the bottom, so when I go to cut, I'm going to start with my blade here and pull it towards this stop. So just pay attention to where you're putting this when you secure this either to your tabletop or into a vise. The next thing, we have a line right here, and you never want your coils to go beyond this line, and I will point out why in just one moment. So first thing we need to do is we need to secure this to our bench top. So in my case, I'm going to use a vise. And just make sure that that's nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. We have a good secure fit. Next thing I'm going to do is it comes with some peppy lube. We want to open up this lubricant, push up from the bottom, and I'm going to rub my jump rings ever so slightly just into the lubricant. This is going to give a nice coating of the lubricant for our blade to cut through. It's going to help keep our blade sharp and cutting nice and smooth. Next, fit the guide on top. Now, it's important that this be straight and that it have the right tension. So what I like to do is place my hand just right on top of the coil itself, and we're going to screw the knobs down. Be careful not to over tighten or things will get out of alignment. So again, we want to just be hand tight, but we want to make certain that everything is level as well. Now you recall I had a line over here, and the reason that I don't want my coils to go beyond that line is because when I go to insert my blade into this, it still clears the coil. And you want to start with your blade above that coil before we go. Now that our blade is in position, we've got it attached to our flex shaft. We're going to place this back into our guide. I like to hold on with one hand, kind of in a fist almost, where I'm going to give my tension and pull this towards me. I'm also going to hold down on top of where the blade is. I like to use my thumb to help pull things together. As always, safety first. Make certain you are wearing your safety glasses anytime you do any kind of cutting. Once you get to the end of this, you want to make sure that you hold still and wait for that blade to stop before you lift it out of place. Once you are done, again, everything can be disassembled and stored safely and securely in the holder. To remove our jump rings, simply lift open the coil guide or the cutting guide And you can dump them out, where we now have all of our jump rings ready to go. If you are cutting thicker gauges of wire such as 14 or 16, you may want to consider buying the optional 1.5 inch blade rather than just the 1 1/4 inch blade that comes with the kit.